Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laurel Rutledge, and I am based in Houston, Texas. And I am so excited and honored to be here to share a little bit about my story. I am the founder, CEO, and Chief Navigation Officer of LKR Group, LLC. And what that business is a business strategy and organizational advisory organization that really focuses on women and women co-owned businesses. And I came to this place because I was in corporate for almost 30 years. And I could not be doing what I'm doing now had I not had the corporate journey that I had. And so I want to take you a little bit through that so you can understand how I got to where I am now. I grew up in a small town, Odessa, Texas. And for those of you around the world who have seen or heard of the movie Friday Night Lights or the television show Friday Night Lights, that was actually my high school. So yes, we are Texans, we love football, and we build big stadiums for high school football. So I lived that and grew up in this town where both my parents were educators, and my dad, in fact, was my principal at my high school. And I knew growing up that what I definitely wanted to do was to get out of Odessa. And I wound up getting an undergraduate degree in accounting, and I got an MBA in operations and international business, where I finished that degree at ESADE in Barcelona. And then I had a multitude of opportunities coming out of college. And I had the original idea of being a psychologist. That's what I really wanted to do. And my dad, may he rest in peace, said, "Honey, I love you, but you got to get a job when you get out of school." And I realized I could do accounting. It seemed to make sense. So let me just get the degree in accounting. And I wound up in my first job doing some accounting for oil and gas, like many people did in Texas. And first job, first layoff. So you can imagine they hired 4 of us right out of school. And then within 5 months, they told all of us that they no longer could have positions for us. So I found myself in my second job less than a year out of college. And I started working for an electronics company, Texas Instruments, that was in the military devices. And it was a fantastic opportunity, which was where I really was still doing accounting, but got into logistics and operations and how things moved. And I realized I really, really loved that whole idea of how things are made. And while numbers are great, you can make numbers be whatever you want them to be, a la Enron. But that thing coming off of the line is either good or bad. They're either 12 or they're 22 of those. All of those things make them so much more real. And so I decided I was going to go to graduate school, and I wanted to do operations and international business. And I also wanted to be functionally fluent in Spanish by the time I left. I grew up learning French from first grade, but I'm in Texas. You don't use French as much in Texas. So I decided to be focused on not only getting this degree, but also really getting my Spanish up to speed. And I did that. To this day, sometimes I wonder how I finished that degree in Spain when 3 of my 4 courses were in Spanish, one of those actually in Catalan, and I still did it. So we can do many things when we set our mind to them. And then I had the pleasure of going to work for an automotive parts company. Then I went to work for Deloitte. Then I went to work for a small parts company. And then I wound up at Hillenbrand Industries that was both caskets and medical devices. And then ultimately, I wound up at one of the fourth largest chemical companies in Europe with Bayer. And I was working in the biomaterial science division in Baytown, Texas, before being promoted to the head of HR for North America. And then we spun off into what is now today Covestro. So my career spanned everything from accounting to internal audit to enterprise risk management to ultimately head of HR strategy and analytics for a really large company. And what I realized at the end of that trajectory was I was absolutely in misery. Toxic organizations, while I had some amazing bosses, I had some real interesting engagements with people whose level of integrity was just not the same as mine from an organizational perspective, that there were cultures and there were decisions being made that were just absolutely contrary to who I was as a person and how I liked to lead. Now, I'm very clear that the only way to get an organization that is 100% in line with your own values is to start your own business. And so I never expected the company to be what I wanted it to be, but I did expect to not have to be in constant conflict all the time, every day. And so I made the decision in December of 2016 to leave. And I made that decision because I was sitting there at Christmas with my family, tired, frustrated, wondering why these people were talking to me and breathing my air. And then it hit me that these are people that I love, that I really love, and who love me. And yet, just being in the presence of these amazing individuals was just too much. And I realized it was time to go. So I went in, I told the organization that I would be leaving, and I started this journey of entrepreneurship. So I left at the end of 2017 and started my business, LKR Group LLC, January of 2018. And the journey has been quite interesting. I think the biggest learning for me so far has been number one, if you are in a corporate situation and you decide to go out on your own in entrepreneurship, to understand that there are many, many people who are saying the same words, but meaning things that are very different. And so those first coaches that I worked with, the first people that I engaged with, may not have had the same corporate experience. So when we were talking about strategies, what I meant by strategy was completely different than what they meant by strategy. The next big piece of the lesson I learned was you really want to get solid on who you are and what you want to do, and not allow everyone else's perspective of what you should be doing to all of a sudden become the plan for your business. And if you come out and you aren't really solid, it's very easy to get moved into something that really isn't where your heart lies. And then the final thing is, it's really important to listen to that desire of your heart, to listen to what you say, those things that you don't even think about, because those really are the things that drive you to be who you are and what you are and where you want to be. This is year 7 of my business, and it was in year 6 at my radio show, January, the very first show that came out that year. And I stood in front of the camera because it live streamed, talking to the audience. And I said, I really love what I do. And where my genius lies is in connecting that business strategy to that people strategy. And that is really the key, especially for women owned businesses and women co-own businesses, is beginning to continue to lead with your heart, but act with your head. And in order to do that, you have to be able to navigate that connection between business strategy and people strategy. And I said, that's what I do. I'm your chief navigation officer to help you do that. So it was really 6 years into the business that everything came back full circle to what I had said in the very beginning. My very first video that I ever put up on my website said, there are 4 questions to answer: who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take to get there. And that has been something that I have used not only for myself, but with all of my clients from day one. Who are you fundamentally? What drives you? What feeds you? What is your root system, right? The tree in my logo is purposeful because that root system, faith, family, friends, and health for me, is where I go when things are all crazy. I know one of those things is off kilter. And then where are you in your life, in your business, in your career? Understanding where that is and how that fits into your overall scheme of things is really important, because then you can decide if your action is simply a detour or if you're derailing yourself. And if you're derailing, does that mean that the objective has changed or that you really need to get back on track? And then finally, what is it that you really, really, really want to do? What is that vision that you have that is non negotiable? You can see it. When you sleep, you can see it. When you're talking to someone, you can see it. You dream about this thing. What is it that you want to do? And then finally, what is it going to take to get there? And I even add, what are you willing to do to get there? And so those four questions were fundamental questions I said back in 2018. And it took me 6 years to get back to those questions. And now I am running a business that I love with clients that I believe are phenomenal, who really understand working through that alignment, that vision, and that action helps them to continue to create the businesses and the cultures that they want to create, to really align themselves well with who they are and build teams that are aligned with their value system that do great work. And I love it. I am so honored to be able to do this work, and I'm so honored to be able to talk to you about it.
I can feel your passion from Melbourne, Australia. It's just so inspiring to meet somebody who's on fire and loves what they're doing. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yes.
Now, given the statistics about women-owned businesses,
Mhm.
particularly those run by women of color,
Yes.
what do you believe are the key barriers preventing these businesses from scaling, and how do you help overcome them?
It is incredible the number of women of color who are starting businesses now. It is exponentially higher than it has been. There were 14.3, I believe it was, million businesses started. The majority of those were started by women of color, and that was globally. And in the US, the difference is even starker, right? Most of the people that are starting businesses, most of the women are women of color.
Yes.
There are societal challenges globally around supporting women in general, women's
Yes.
access to money, women's access to mentors, women's access to just the ability to get into a space to do work being taken seriously. So that's number one, is overcoming the barrier of just doubt of your capability. And
Yeah.
that is as much internal as it is external. But the other piece that I believe, and when I look at clients and what I see with especially businesses that are owned by women of color, is this need to show that we really know what we're doing, and a reluctance to accept help from people who have our best interest in mind. So we
Mm.
get all of these things that tell us, go post 42 times on social media, or go find an investor, go find a mentor, go do these things. And I heard a woman say this the other day: women of color are over mentored and under supported. So we may find someone who
Mhm.
is willing to give us really great information as women of color,
Yes.
but are they willing to open their Rolodex? Are they willing to make the introduction to the person who knows how to get us the manufacturer that we need? Are they
Mm.
willing to get the relationship started with a banker, right? Over mentored, under supported.
Mm.
That is one of the things that I think gets to be such a big barrier for us. But those are external. What I
Yes.
like to work on is the internal connected to the external, which is, why did you start the business in the first place? Whatever that is, there is no judgment in my zone.
Yeah.
Sometimes we start it because we lost a job and we got to do something and we are resourceful. So we start a business.
Yes.
Sometimes it's because we had to leave a toxic situation and we just wanted to do something that was bigger and better. I left because I knew I could serve bigger and better, and I
Mm.
just couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't worth it. Life is too short. And then sometimes we have a real fire burning for this thing that we want to do, this impact that we want to
Mhm.
make in the world. And so it starts with that real deep why aligned to who you are, and
Mhm.
then getting someone who can connect you to understanding, how does your vision align with that or does it not? so you can make intelligent and intentional decisions about what you are doing, why you are doing it, and how you're going to do it in order to achieve the objectives. And that's where I come in.
Oh, I love it. So, can you share a success story where you helped a female entrepreneur transform her business from a small operation to a thriving enterprise with a significant community impact?
So this is going to sound really odd because it's a different bent. So I
Mhm.
actually worked with a woman who was ready to retire. So when you say kind of impact, community impact, it's coming. Hang with me
Yes.
here. She was ready to retire, and her daughter actually reached out to me and said, "Can you please work with my mother?" I did a 3-month session with her. And in this session, in the number of sessions we had, what it came down to is this. She was exceptional at what she'd done. She had built a business over 20 years, had returning clients, clients that were always seeking her out. She had one employee, so she wanted to keep it fairly small. But she was
Right.
also reaching a point where she was much more interested in this next chapter of her life, being able to spend that with family, being able to spend that with her grandkids. But she
Yeah.
also wanted to take care of her employee in the transition. And so in going through the process with her, my alignment vision action model, we really got to what is it that you want to do and why. I love the
Yes.
work I do. I love helping people. I love serving my clients. I really love seeing people understand their accounting and their finances to build their businesses. What I
Hmm.
don't like is not having control over my time, right? So we got really deep into her why of what she was trying to do. Then we
Right.
got into the vision, which was I would really like to sell this business at first because she really wanted to take care of her employee. But then she also said, as we dug deeper, no, I put a lot into this. I'd really like to get my investment out because there is value
Mm.
in my client list, right? So
Yeah.
that idea of value, not worth, there is value in my client list and the relationships that I've built. So we got through that as the second piece, right? Her vision of selling it to someone who was going to value and treat her clients the way she treated them, as well
Yeah.
as treating her employee the way she treated them. And
Hmm.
then finally, that action, we talked a lot through what are the opportunities there and gave her some ideas of who she could go talk to, who was in her network, right? Because the beauty of being outside of someone's business is that you can see dots and then connect them, and they may not have even seen the dots. So she
Yeah.
was able to go talk to people that she'd never even thought of because we had conversations about, have you thought about this industry? Have you thought about this person who is in your network that does this that might be able to connect you to somebody who's looking, right? So really asking that next question. I
Hmm.
literally got a message from her. Now, I worked with her 3 years ago almost. I got a
Okay.
message from her several months ago that said, Laurel, I just need to give you an update. As a result of my work with you, I was able to sell my business. And not
Uh,
only did I sell my business, but I was able to negotiate my own exit where I could still transition my clients and transition myself to working part time and then slower and then slower. So I got to make my own exit strategy. And in doing that, I also got to go back to something that is the root of my heart, which is training and helping and supporting and mentoring new accountants in this new business.
oh.
The cherry on the sundae was my employee who I was really worried about and who initially said they really wanted to buy the business and were upset with me that I wasn't selling to them. And I had to have the conversation with them about here's what it really means to run this business, is
Yes.
now thriving, is probably going to be a partner in this firm, is happier than
Uh,
she's ever been, and they're able to pay her more than I ever could. And I could not have done that had I not had that 3 months with you, really helping me to think through not only the emotional piece, but to think through the
mhm.
business piece of my why and how I could do it in a way that would honor me, honor my clients, and take care of my employees. So I
Uh,
give that to say, she didn't go through to scale her
yeah.
own business, but her business ended up scaling through the sale of her portfolio of clients to someone else that has now been able to build their business and take care of their employees. And she got to
Wow.
live the life that she wanted to live. Yeah. I'm really
That's
proud of that one. She's
incredible.
amazing.
That's an amazing story. So, what are some of the most common challenges that women face when trying to move from the role of a doer to a leader?
Mhm.
And how do you guide them through this transition?
That is a huge question. And what I see mostly trying to move from doer to leader is one, you've got to be willing to give up control,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you've bootstrapped this business. This is your baby. You've got to be able to give up control, number one. Number two, you have to be willing to be honest with yourself and with people that you hire about what you expect them to do. It's not unkind to be clear, right? Set very
Mm-hmm.
clear expectations and then hold
Yes.
people to those expectations, including yourself. If you're
Mm-hmm.
expecting yourself to let things go, then you have to hold yourself accountable to letting things go. So that's number two, right? Setting really clear expectations. The third thing I find is that real challenge with women of having a difficulty continuing to lead with their heart, but act with their head. It is
Mm-hmm.
not unkind to be clear. It is not mean to set expectations. It is not mean to realize that someone is no longer a fit for your organization and to help them be successful somewhere else.
Yeah.
It is not unkind to give candid feedback. And so that I think underlying everything is building the trust in yourself as a leader, the clarity around the thing you want to do so you can set expectations, and then
Mm-hmm.
enabling yourself to not only lead with your heart, but to act with your head, with your business in mind. Because if
Yeah.
business isn't healthy, no one has a job,
Yeah.
including you. So, really, through how do I keep a healthy business that enables me to run it in a way that is aligned with my values, whether
Mm.
that's huge parental leave or lots of parties that we throw around getting people together. It's having office spaces all over the world. Wherever the thing is that is the crux of your culture and your business
Mhm.
has to be undergirded by a really strong and solid business strategy and organizational strategy that
Mm.
enables you to achieve the financial objectives that you want to continue to do the community and business objectives that you want.
That's just amazing. Yeah, it's normally very, very difficult to learn how to work on your business and not in it.
Yes.
And that is the challenge when you want to scale.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
What strategies do you recommend for female entrepreneurs to create efficient and effective processes
Mhm.
that align with their business and impact goals?
So I am a process nerd. I love a good process. And
Mm.
so one of the things that I do with my clients is say, let's pause and let's start at the very beginning. What are you
Right.
trying to do? Let's lay out everything that you do. How do you execute your business? Right? So I work with a number of designers. So they find clients, they put together a proposal. They then do drafts once they win it, right? They do drafts, then they actually execute and they do the design, right? So we walk through the entire process of how you do the work.
Right.
Once you get that solid, then and only then do you talk about what skills are needed to make the work happen. Notice I said
Mhm.
what skills are needed, not what people are needed.
Yes.
What skills are needed to make the work happen. Then once you get that solid, then you say, do I have those skills already in my organization? And if so, where? If not, where can I go get them? And
Mhm.
then you can talk about now we're executing processes. What can we automate? What is really the core of the value that we drive that needs our hands on it? And what
Yeah.
can be outsourced? Outsourcing meaning just not done by you. So that outsourcing could
Yes.
be you get a bookkeeper. It could be you get a social media person. It doesn't necessarily mean you're outsourcing, manufacturing somewhere, although that may be a thing too. But it's really about coming back to what are you trying to accomplish, what skills are needed, and then once you get the skills to get the processes done, then how can I go back and automate and make things simple? It's easy to be complicated. It's hard
Mm.
to be simple because we think by adding more steps we make it easier. By
Yeah.
adding more steps we make it more complicated. What is the lowest common denominator you can get to get things done? I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. When my second job, I was doing some cost accounting, and I realized that we had to get like 6 signatures on an invoice before we could put inventory in the business.
Right.
And so I'm curious, right? And I'm thinking, why? So why do we need 6 signatures?
Yeah.
They started telling me about all the things and I said, okay, so, but if we go back to the process and what we're trying to accomplish, is we want the right product ordered in the right time, received in the right quality, quantity, right? And in the right timing that we need. That's
Yeah.
it. Is six signatures going to make that happen? Or is it one person who can check all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But because we have a tendency to just add on and do things as they happen, we tend
Yes.
to put things in processes that are unnecessary because we just did them out of need at the moment. So
Yeah.
it's all about simplification. Going back to, what are you trying to do? What are the skills that are needed? Do I have those skills or not? And then how can I streamline those processes, outsource what I can, automate what I can, and only do those things that require hands-on?
I want to know what advice you have for women who are hesitant to invest time, energy, and resources to scale their businesses and
Mm,
make a larger impact.
yeah. That question tends to be a very personal question because it's tied to money, our money head trash, right?
Yes.
Um, but I like to think about investment as an investment of resources being time,
Yes.
energy, and money. And so if you've been really clear on your goal, you know your why, you know who you are, and you're very, very clear on the goal, the how will take care of itself if you focus on the what.
Sure.
But in order to get to the what, you have to be willing to invest resources to get
Mhm.
there, depending on what kind of timeline you're giving yourself, because time is not
Yes.
renewable. So I often ask my clients, what is it costing you to not invest either the time to slow down and decide what it
Mhm.
is you really want, or the money to get some expertise to fill in gaps that you have, as opposed to you trying to learn everything? What is it
Yes.
costing you to get to that thing by refusing or being reluctant to? Let me not say refusal, being
Mhm.
reluctant to make the
Yeah.
investment in time, energy, and or money to make big moves to get to the goal. And
Mhm.
generally, when I ask that question, it tends to come down to some doubt, some fear, and some trust. Can I trust my people? Can I
Mhm.
trust myself? More money, more problems, right?
Yeah.
Do I really
Yeah.
want this thing that I want? And how do you know until you try? And when you try, why don't you give it your all, right? Because we can make more energy. We can go to sleep. We can make more energy. Theoretically,
Mhm.
you can actually make more money, but you can't
Yeah.
make more time. And do you want to be at the end saying woulda, coulda, shoulda? Or do you want to be at the end saying, you know what? I gave it a shot. It worked
Yeah.
really well. Or I gave it a shot. Oop, didn't quite work.
Didn't
I
work.
wanted it to, but I learned something and I'm much better than I was before.
I love that. Now, looking ahead, what trends do you see in the empowerment of women-owned businesses? And how do you plan to continue supporting this movement through your work?
Mhm. What I love seeing is that women are creating what they need. So you're seeing more and more women owned or women focused or women centric investment funds, right? You're seeing more and more of these organizations that are willing and ready and able to invest in women owned businesses, or at least women led businesses. Despite
Yeah.
what's happening in the US with all of the lawsuits saying that it is discriminatory to give money to women, and in particular Black women, when we
Mm,
have less than 1%, 0.1% of the investment dollars.
see.
I'm seeing more and more women say, forget that, man. We can't get it in the system that exists now. We're going to
Yeah,
create our own system. And that trend is so exciting to me
I
because
was
it gives
um,
real opportunity for women who need just a little bit of investment.
yeah.
The other trend that I'm seeing is a real movement of women to not lead like men, but to lead well. And that means lead with their heart, but
Mm,
act with their head. So they are
yes.
bringing their full, compassionate, thoughtful, heart-led selves to their businesses, and they are willing to make the tough decisions. They are
Mm,
willing to make the hard calls. They are willing to push and demand excellence and not feel bad about setting really high goals and expectations for
yes.
themselves and for their organizations. And so those are the two trends that I see really coming together at the most opportune time to really push women-owned businesses forward. I just believe that when women are running businesses, when we are creating wealth, we are lifting up communities, and it is an
It's
amazing time we're
exciting.
living in.
Absolutely exciting.
Yes.
Now, my last two questions for you are a bit of a time experiment.
Okay.
I'm going to teleport you into the past.
Okay.
And we're going to go and meet the younger you, the young woman who went into the world of business, excited to make a difference.
Mhm.
If you could go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom
Mhm.
based on what life has taught you up until this
Yeah.
point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
Ooh. So the first nugget of wisdom would be that you know who you are. Don't let anyone else tell you who you are. You are really grounded in great faith. You have great parents and grandparents and ancestors who have brought you here. You know who you are and stand strong in who you are. That's number one. Number two is a piece of advice that I was given by my parents that I live by. And I don't think I always knew how important it was to be very forward with living by this statement, which is even when you have nothing, when you have a good name, you have everything. And what that means is no matter what, no matter where, you will stand in integrity and you will stand in truth and you will stand on facts, even if you're standing alone. Because at the end of the day, what people will remember is how you treated them, how you stood up for what was right, how you first said when you made a mistake and called it a mistake and then did everything you could to make it right. That becomes who you are and your brand. And then the last piece of advice that I would give myself as my younger self that really likes to be behind the scenes and still to this day likes to be behind the scenes, is get out there. You are dynamic. You are someone who people like to know and like to talk to and love to engage with. Use your curiosity to build really great relationships ongoing and not just for short periods of time. Keep your village close, keep your village tight, but also make room for those other relationships that are going to come into your world simply because you decide to show up and connect with that one person in the room that you're supposed to be connected to. It's not about meeting everyone, it's about meeting the right one. So, those are the three pieces of advice that I would give my younger self.
Absolutely fantastic. And now let me teleport you into the future. And we're going to go and meet the 90-year-old you.
Ah,
And you are sitting on your porch in your rocking chair, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren, whoever is with you at the end.
yes.
If I could teleport you to meet this wise woman who's led you up until this point,
Yeah.
what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
Wow. What I would say to that 90-year-old woman, one is thank you for not giving up. Thank you for not giving up. Second, I would say thank you for remembering at least as often as you could to put yourself on the list and then to eventually remember to put yourself at the top of the list. And then finally, I would tell her, thank you for learning how to love yourself. And through loving yourself, loving other people and building such a great legacy of care and compassion and love. And then I would sit at the feet of this 90-year-old woman and just absorb everything I possibly could. That learning from that wisdom is invaluable. And the stories that we get from those who have been there before us and been through things that we never could have imagined is wisdom that is absolutely priceless. And so I would tell her, thank you, and just sit and listen and ask tons of questions and have a tape recorder so that I can recall it all.
You know why I like to ask that last question?
Yeah.
Is because a lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already here.
Yes.
You know, we run around looking outside of ourselves for the answers to everything we're going through, but we were born with these knowings. We were wired with the knowledge. That's why you have the passion to do what you do.
Yes.
So I like to play with the energy of who I am becoming. Sometimes when I get really stuck, I go into my meditation and my prayers before I go to sleep. And I ask myself a very simple question like, what is the next step? What am I supposed to do now, right? And then I wake up in the morning and I'm in the shower and I get those light bulb moments where it just drops and I know exactly what I need to do to execute. So ladies out there, learn to trust yourself. Learn to listen to that inner voice. That little whisper that says, go left, go right, say yes, say no. That's her. That is the wise woman who exists in you. So learn to use your intuition, because the more you use it, the stronger it gets. The stronger it gets, the more you use it.
Yes.
So thank you so much for this inspiring interview.
Thank you.
Always lights me up when I see women who are on purpose and on fire.
Yes.
What
Thank
you're
you
doing
so much.
should be a passion. And I can feel that from you all the way here in Australia.
I love it. Thank you so very much. Such provocative questions. And I appreciate the platform and the opportunity to share my story, because I do love what I do. And I love meeting other women who are doing fantastic things and lifting up women, because we are going to be the ones who move this world forward. I truly believe that.
I do too. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement with a passion to inspire you, energize you, motivate you, but most importantly, to give you the knowledge, the insights, the tools to take you from where you are now to where you want to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. And Laurel, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.